Hey, hello everybody. Welcome to YouTube. All right, it's early. And here we are with our panel today. We got Grim, we have Kringe, and we have Victor. Stay buffed Marshmallow Man.
Yep.
And hey, Decepticons Cave of Villains, and we have Ironcaster out there. Yes, happy Tuesday. Here we are. It is the 28th. It is the last Tuesday of this month, and time is flying by very, very quickly this summer. Oh, we do have Snortapoopus. Hey, we've got a Snortapoopus. Awesome. I have not had nearly enough caffeine, and I think all these guys have been either up for a few hours already. So.
Yeah.
Well, I just got off of work, so.
There you go. All right. Stuff to talk about today. All right. Well, first thing we got to do is talk about stuff that just came out. I don't know if anybody has any axes to grind against Soul Muppet Publishing.
What happened with Soul Muppet?
I don't know.
I have one of their games.
Yeah.
I was thinking about downloading it, actually.
I can't recall if Soul Muppet has actually done anything that has offended anybody or upset anybody. They don't have me blocked, and I don't have them blocked, so obviously, I guess they're okay. I mean, Grim, you haven't had any run-ins with them, have you?
I just heard of them right now when you said.
Yeah.
Let's see. Their big news is Gangs of Titan City, which is a grimdark urban role-playing game, and that's on Kickstarter, and they're being backed up by Johan Noir, who is the guy behind Morkborg. They got 48 hours to go, and they've hit their goal, so they're going to make it for this, but if you want in on this, you still have a little bit of time. This is their mock-up of their cover artwork, which, you know, say what you will.
It looks similar to the other game of theirs I have. So I have Best Left Buried.
Oh, okay. Best Left, yeah. They did, yeah, Best Left Buried, Orbital Blues, and Stygian Library.
I wanted to get Stygian Library, but it's sold out.
I kind of like it.
But, yeah, it's a tabletop role-playing game that puts you in control of a gang of desperate outcasts fighting for survival, starting out as small fish in a very big murky pond, wrestling control of the city away from gangland rivals and institutions that want to crush you. So, in a way, it really very much, I'm getting like all the Necromunda vibes.
That's exactly what I thought of. Fantasy Necromunda.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Supposed to be inspired by Necromunda, Fallout, Judge Dredd, 2000 AD, Borderlands, Altered Carbon, Blade Runner, Mad Max.
Well, maybe it isn't fantasy.
Yeah. Well, it's more cyberpunk than fantasy. But it seems, you know, I kind of like it.
Well, cyberpunk would have you looking at it.
Yeah, of course. Kind of has some visual cues, I think, from Morkborg with the the strange text kind of thing like this. Although this Gangs of Titan City, this is obviously pulled font letter straight off of Gangs of New York. Yeah, the movie. Which I love that movie.
I haven't seen that movie in years.
Yeah, I haven't either, but man, it was a good movie.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, for $13 US or £10, you can get your PDF. And me being the hard copy snob that I am, I would end up probably going for the physical tier. What?
I'm looking for a PDF that I got emailed to me, and I didn't realize I didn't get any email notifications overnight, and now I have like 40 emails.
Oh. Anyway, so yeah, they're physical copies, $50. So I guess that's about the same, amount that you'd pay for most books, core books these days. But it looks like it has, all kinds of character types, gutter classes like aberrations and brokers, bruisers, mastermind.
I'm not sure that the quality looks to be there for a 50 quid core book.
Yeah, it. I don't know. Maybe it's going to be nice and crunchy. I do believe there is a set of rules, a quick start type rule thing that you can download to take a look at. Let me see if I can pull it up for us. That artwork.
Yeah, it's not good, and it's intensely 40k derivative.
Yeah. This is supposed to be their nicer quality one, I believe. It's A5, or slightly larger than A5, 6x9.
And they still want 50 quid for the core book.
Yeah, well, it's high quality paper, Smith's own bindings, and a ribbon.
Why bother if your artwork's that bad? Sorry, I'm being really negative, but I just...
Come on now. Don't be
It's
that
kind
way.
of frustrating.
I understand.
See, that's more like it. If it was more like that, hyper stylized.
Some
That
of
would
it
be
I
good.
like, some of it is meh.
Yeah, I understand. Oh, the writers are Emmy Allen, a British trans writer, Brian Yaksha, Wendy Yu, and Nura Rose. Okay. Oh, founders of Monkey's Paw Games.
Oh, that's a pass.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Pass.
Yeah, I had to think, and I was like, I heard that name, and then I just remembered.
Yeah. Never mind. I thought there was something wrong with Soul Muppet. I couldn't remember, but yeah.
I did
all right.
realise where I'd heard of them before. They've really heavily pushed the identity politics as their main sort of selling point for their games.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I appreciate the sentiment that they've got, which is, we're going to employ people from the global south, we're going to introduce people to South American role-playing and so on, because there is a scene there that gets ignored. But when you lead with that rather than whether the game's any good or not, it's, off-putting.
Yeah, so much for that. I don't guess I'll be backing that one either. I'm sorry, you can't talk shit to my friends and have me expect to support you. But,
Yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't care, but it's just the quality doesn't look to be there for me.
yeah, there's that also. Hey, Darius Munchausen, good to see you. All right, so apparently I assigned everybody homework, despite the fact that this was Kringe's idea.
Yeah, but I didn't think you were going to do it this soon.
Oh, well, come on, dude. Either you know your games or you don't.
It's not homework if you don't leave it till the last minute.
That's right.
Yeah.
This is true.
I literally
I've
didn't
waited
even
till
know
last
until 20 minutes beforehand.
Yeah. So I guess it falls on me to start this thing. So anyway, we're talking general systems out there. I mean, because I say every week that everybody knows Dungeons and Dragons because it's the big boy on the block. I mean, you cannot swing a dead cat and not hit a Dungeons and Dragons reference. I mean, inadvertently, no. When you speak to people on the street and you mention the word role-playing game, they're either going to think it's some kind of kinky sex thing, or they're going to say it's Dungeons and Dragons.
Why not both?
Yeah.
Or both. Yes, yeah. That would be kind of interesting. Kinky Dungeons and Dragons. Oh, wait a minute, Grim. You know something about that, don't you?
Yeah.
There you go. I wish I had your job, dude. I really do.
Tough. It's mine.
I know. And I'll let you corner the market on it. I'll just be an observer like everybody else. But
D&D
But-
sex toys win.
Yeah.
well,
You can get a butt plug with a D20 in it.
Yeah. There's a string of D20s, some big ones.
I don't think anyone's done that. You can get a D20 ball gag as well.
Yeah.
oh my gosh. Des Wolfen says, I don't know a lot of the newer stuff in gaming since 1979, so I've seen a lot of systems come and go. Yeah, there's been a lot of systems that have come and gone, and they're still coming and going. There's tons of them. But like I said, D&D is kind of like the biggest boy on the block, the one that inevitably everybody remembers. But as so often I try to strive to remind people, it's like there are a lot more systems out there. And in fact, there are a lot of systems out there that convert 5th edition into something else. So, you know, and there's good stuff out there that does that. Gene Funk is one of my favorites that does that, and so does Carbon. Both really good games based on 5th edition rules, but they kind of have their own thing. Obviously, one is Gene Punk based, and the other one is Cyberpunk based. So I like stuff like that.
Well, I'm working on one like that, so. And hey, it's my co-host.
Gogol Po. It's 2022. Most people know what D&D is now, especially the popular Strange Things. Yeah, or Critical Role.
Yeah, it was in ET back in the day, which was huge, but that didn't mean anyone understood it.
Yeah, that's true. Well, I mean, you know, some people cite E.T. as an influence for Dungeons and Dragons, but I'm kind of like, they barely mentioned it in the film. I mean, it was like, I think it was like 5 to 6 minutes worth of, you know, exposition in the movie, and it was never brought up again.
Yeah.
If they had capitalized on it more, that would have been interesting. But Indigo Dragon, unless it's a military person, thinks rocket propelled grenade. Yeah, that's true. That's true. And good morning, by the way, Indigo and Basic Expert. Greetings. If you want to spot on this panel, let me know. I will be happy to.
You can definitely talk about systems. You can talk about basic fantasy, probably Traveler. Like,
Yeah, you might need to invite him because I might have to bow out. Something's coming up. I'm not sure yet. That's why I'm quiet.
Uh-oh. Okay. It was mentioned in Taps? Really? Man, it's been so long since I've seen that movie. I can't remember. I'll take your word on it. But, yeah. Okay, so I guess we need to start this thing. I will start with my favorite. Well, it's undergone a few iterations since my actual favorite. But, of course, I always talk about Torg. And the latest book is Torg Eternity. This is by Ulysses Spiel, which is a German company. And it's based on the old West End Games product, which the old West End Games Torg is actually my favorite. But as it's kind of hard to get now without paying the ridiculous scalper prices to find the old box sets. You know, this is pretty much your only alternative now. But I'm glad that it is still in print in some form, although it has kind of changed a bit. Back at the time, we would use pretty much the archetypes that were published in all the books and just play solely from the archetypes. Well, now the focus is kind of more on building your own character. Complete with their own stats and everything else, and tokens and stuff. And we didn't have tokens back then. That's a new thing.
Is this Fantasy Flight Games?
No, this is Ulysses Spiel. It's not even the same people working on it, but yeah, this is the original covers for the old books.
I mean, those look cool.
Yeah, there was great stuff. It was great stuff. This is an original cover from one of the books from Nile Empire.
Huh.
And this is the original cover for the Isle book, which is basically like their fantasy version that takes place in England, of course. Because, I don't know, England, fantasy, it just works. But
Yeah.
the basic premise behind the game is that other realities exist that mirror Earth in some way. And in these different realities, different rules apply to these realities. Like if you are in the horror realm, the rule of horror tends to be what is the most powerful thing. Things will scare you. Wounds are more deadly. The feeling of powerlessness is more prevalent. You know, the bad guys have more of an advantage. In the Nile Empire, technology is almost non-existent. So technology breaks down. It doesn't work as well. Miracles are more popular and more powerful. And dinosaurs run around.
Huh.
I mean,
Yeah.
everything's better with dinosaurs.
Everything's better with
Agreed.
dinosaurs. Yeah, yeah. And the thing is, all these different realities are ruled by different lords, high lords, as they're called. And all these different realities, all these different high lords are led by a single individual called the Gaunt Man, who is their leader, who is leading all of these different high lords to our Earth, because for some reason our Earth is a nexus of what is supposed to be possibility energy, which is what these high lords use to keep control of their realm and manipulate their reality so that they can continue to keep control over it. And all of them are fighting to take possession of this world and become what is called Torg, which is their word for, their great master, their ruler, their leader,
Torg, king of the kobolds.
basically. But Torg, king of reality. But so the invaders have all entered our world in different areas. So they have particular parts of the world are sectioned off and controlled by those realities. Those rules exist in certain parts of our world. Like North America has been taken over by the living land. So North America has dinosaurs. Technology is breaking down. And you have these lizard men who call upon miracles from Lanala, who is a spiritual goddess. Like I said, the fantasy realm has overtaken the UK. The Japanese, it's hard to describe it. Kind of like Resident Evil type zombie influence, Train to Busan type world has taken over the Far East. The horror realm has taken over another part of the world. They've got the cyber papacy, which is France, which, you put those two words together and it just automatically sounds awesome.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah. And there's other realms too. There's like the realm of cyberpunk demons that has taken over Russia. And there's the Nile Empire, where you have pulp heroes and stuff and weird science taking over Africa and Egypt. And so all these different realities exist simultaneously, overlapping our reality. And in the places where their reality interacts with ours, it causes contradictions, because it's like our reality is fighting for control, their reality is fighting for control. And your character is a hero, a storm knight, a person who can actually take this possibility energy and manipulate it for their own uses to change reality as you see fit. And what that translates into game terms is
Yeah, guys, I've got to go. I'm sorry.
oh, okay,
All right.
yeah, I'm sorry.
Laters.
So what happens is your character, after you create it, and then see, here are all the zones of control. You can see all these little spaces where all these little things are. These are where their realities are interacting with ours, and you can see what the different control points are. I should have brought that up. I didn't think about it. I'm mostly going on memory from this game because it's been a long time since I've actually gotten to play it or run it. But our world is called Core Earth. And these things are the axioms, or this is the powers of our world. And my phone is ringing. So anyway, your character is a Storm Knight. They control the possibilities of their world. And what that basically means is everything in this game is run by D20s. You roll a D20 to resolve all tasks. And it's thrown down on a number chart, and it determines how big of a success or failure everything is. And part of that also includes the ability to throw out possibility points and either stack another dice roll on top of it or get a critical success. And since the game runs on heroic high fantasy type rules, they encourage you to do everything. No matter how crazy it may seem. I mean, yeah, I mean, it's anything you've ever seen in a movie can translate to something in this game. And that's pretty much how we like to play it, is basically it's just like the most cool super duper action movie from the 80s you could think of. And now it's been brought up to the 90s, to the 2000s, to the 2022. Gosh, time has moved on us. And everything has been updated. So your characters can do things like they can have cyberware implanted. They can use magic. They can, cause miracles.
What happens if you have cyberware and then go to a primitive magic run?
That is a great question. Okay. Now, yeah, what happens is let's say your character has cyberware installed and they go to a place with a lower tech axiom than is required for that stuff to function. Then you have what is called contradiction. Storm Knights can fight this contradiction. They can either spend a possibility point to basically envelop themselves in a bubble of reality, of their reality, so where their stuff continues to function despite the fact that it goes against the natural rules of that world. But there's also a possibility that if that reality fails, your cybernetics may stop functioning altogether. Or in extreme cases, you may start breaking down and start conforming to the rules of the reality that you're in. A good example is like in one of the opening scenarios where the invasion first happens over in North America. The living land comes into play. The dinosaur reality happens and technology breaks down. Well, one of the characters in the scenario reverts to the living land reality, so they become primitive, but they become stronger and more capable and more robust, I guess, as you would need to be to survive in a more harsh under tech reality like that. And the same thing has happened to, millions of other people across the world. As those realities took over, some of those people became profoundly affected by those realities and became subjects of them. So people who didn't have cybernetics in the cyber papacy, like the disabled, suddenly found that they had new cybernetic organs and things that replaced their failing body parts. And they, became denizens of this new cyber papal reality. But yeah, I mean, I'm trying to break down what is kind of a really complex game.
It sounds very gonzo.
It can be a little bit gonzo. It depends on how you choose to play it. They play it pretty much like it's a straight thing. Your goal is to overthrow the High Lords. So you have to destroy the means by which they envelop their reality on the world and maintain that hold. It is possible also to go into their worlds, into their realities, and fight them in that.
Yeah. It kind of sounds like Rifts mixed with the Domains of Dread from D&D.
A little bit, yeah. But I'm not sure which actually came out first, Tor or Rifts, but I'd have to check. But I don't care. I'll be honest, I don't. Because I like it because it's kind of its own thing. And, you can play it straight like they suggest with all kinds of craziness happening between worlds, where your characters can do all kinds of stuff and run from place to place with realities merging and creating new adventures and things. Because you got superheroes who are fighting side by side with electric samurai, who are fighting beside lizard men with miniguns and stuff like that. It's awesome. It's fun. And a savvy GM can take this system and literally turn it into any game they want. Because once you have the rules for like the magic and everything else, you could just, there's nothing to stop you from just going ahead and saying, okay, well, instead of running the Torg world, we're just going to run the magic part, and everybody gets to go to this fantasy realm and use the fantasy rules, and this is the only part that we're using. We're not going to use all the cybernetics and stuff. We're just going to use the fantasy stuff. And because the system is so easy, because it's D20 based, it's very easy to pick up. It's very quick to learn, and it's fun because players have a lot of agency. I hate to use the word storytelling because that's a naughty word in today's role-playing circles. But you have cards that the GM deals to you, and these cards can be played at any time to change how the story goes, just by putting them down. And the cards have things written on them like villain suddenly reveals their master plan or whatever. They're very flavored for whatever reality you're in. So it's very trope heavy. Not to mention you can use your possibilities to change encounters or make things that were impossible possible. Something, like comic book craziness, like throwing a throwing knife into the barrel of the bad guy's gun and jamming it up and blowing it up in his face. Okay, normally, in our world, that's like pretty much impossible. It looks cool in movies when they do it, and certainly they can do it in comic books. Well, Torg allows you to do that. You just say, okay, GM, I'm gonna take my throwing knife and throw it into the barrel of the guy's gun so I can blow it up when he tries to pull the trigger. GM says, okay, well, then here's the difficulty, and you roll your dice. And you could get it without using a possibility. But if you do use a possibility, you have extra points to add into the roll to make it possible to do that. And that's just something I like about it. The game really takes heroism to a new level. There is no, there's no sense of I can't do this, because everything about this game is very much I can do this. And if it's not possible for me to do this, I will make it possible for me to do this. And it can lead to some really fun adventures. It's probably the best example of cooperative gaming and storytelling that you can have with a role-playing game, because the GM has his scenarios and stuff, but because the player is constantly changing reality based on what they do and how they interact, they can completely throw the world on its head based on the things that they pull. But I mean, I love this game. It is so much fun to play. It is, like I said, it's very high adventure. It's very heroic. It feels a lot like the old school, matinee type 80s high adventure, impossible film type thing, where you would see stuff in the 80s like, Dolph Lundgren and Little, and Showdown in Little Tokyo, where he flips a GTO over onto its side in order to create a barrier to stop bad guys from shooting them. It's kind of like, I know, Dolph Lundgren is a big, strong dude, but even he can't pick up a GTO unless maybe, there's not an engine in it. But in this, you probably could do it. And your characters have attributes. They have You have your values for everything right here. Poor is -5, superhuman is 14 plus. You have shock and wounds. They've changed up a few things. They've got perks. You have your defenses, dodge, melee, unarmed, toughness. You have equipment, things like that. It's, it's kind of standard, a little bit standard boilerplate as far as putting characters together go. The real cool thing is how you play the game and what you do with it. Because even an ordinary seeming character with, like, say, basic stats, just having access to the possibility points lets you do incredible things that normal people couldn't do. So the emphasis isn't so much on trying to break the game based on your build. And that's something I like also, because it lets you play the character you really want to play. And I don't know, it just doesn't seem as breakable. I mean, I suppose if you really sat down, any system that you want to name out there can be broken by somebody who wants to break it. That's just the reality that we live in. If you've got a player out there who is just hell-bent and determined on breaking a system, they will find a way to break the system. But this one doesn't seem to have that kind of emphasis. And there is more cooperation in it, because it seems like it's more to your advantage to see your friends succeed. I've watched games where players would just keep playing cards to try to get their friend to succeed in some kind of a critical role, for something major, like, guy jumps off the thing, swings across the room on a chandelier, and lands on the bad guy who's got a gun to the other person's head, kind of thing. Crazy stuff that you wouldn't see happen in normal games, and I really like that. So I don't know. I mean, I don't know how much more I can pitch the game. I think you guys got any specific questions?
No, but it sounds awesome. Like, I actually want to play it now.
Yeah.
I love settings like that.
Yeah, and there's tons and tons of books coming out for it to let you. The basic book will give you everything you need to play the basic game. So every add-on book that you have just gives you more rules, more enemies, more things to do. But yeah, you could just get away with, the core book and do what you want to do. I do recommend the other books in particular. I think if you took the Tharcold book and the Cyber Papacy book along with the core book, you could run a really, really high-powered, off-the-rails version of Cyberpunk.
Yeah.
Something more akin to, like, say, the video game than the actual Cyberpunk Red or Cyberpunk 2020. Because, obviously in Cyberpunk 2020 or Cyberpunk Red, you have a lot more limiting rules. But this one, it's more of a, emphasis on just doing what you want to do and being able to do what you want to do and doing it quickly. So, yeah, Occultech implants, yeah. But I don't know.
It sounds really fun.
Yeah, it does. Grim, you got any questions on?
I think he's muted, maybe.
I just remember the cards being difficult to travel with and to use because they wore out quite quickly. So
yeah, that is a thing. They have nowadays the cards are really nice looking. They come in card boxes, and your possibilities now are represented with poker chips, whereas before we just write it down on your sheet. But I think that kind of aspect is fun because it's like, you tell your GM now, it's kind of like, hey, GM, I want to burn a possibility, and you throw a poker chip at him, and and he can throw poker chips back out at you.
I'm not a fan of the kind of specific things, like the cards or novelty dice or so on, because it reduces the longevity of the product if you've lost the cards or you've lost the dice or you've lost the special chits, or whatever it might be. It gets difficult to play the game in the future because the company goes under and they withdraw the app that lets you roll the dice if you don't have the special dice, and yeah.
Yeah, and oh man, look at this. We got people here who actually have played Torg Eternity. Silverlock says your friend is Omar from the Delphi Council. That is so cool. And Das Wolfen didn't really get into Torg. Well, okay, it depends on who you played with.
It was hard to get the books where I was, but a couple of friends had it, so I played it a few times.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, Torg backwards is grot.
Yeah.
So what are the common dice that you use in this? Like, what is it like D20, D10s, D8s? What is it? D6s?
A D20. That's it. That's all
Okay.
you need.
Oh yeah, that's cool.
And actually, the newest version has D6s also, which I haven't really seen a point to use yet. I'm still using D20s for everything. And yeah, Bill Slavicsek was a big part of original Torg. But
Torg is king of the kobolds in Kobolds Ate My Baby.
Hey, Photonic. As it always was from BXTD, there's always a chance. Yeah, but in Torg, there's actually a very decent chance that you can do what you want to do. And some people would argue against, like, oh, well, I don't like having one set of rules that just determines every governing mechanic. Somebody once argued, they said, well, the reason that they broke up things into percentage dice and D4s and D6s and all that stuff in original D&D was to keep everything from being a D20 roll like it is now. But honestly, I kind of like the fact that it does break everything down to a D20 roll just for ease of use. It's easy to introduce new players to the game because it's only one dice to worry about and one mechanic to worry about for everything.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's a really player friendly game, and it's a really GM friendly game. And I mean, like, even if you show up at a session one night and you're not ready to run anything like that, pick your favorite movie. Doesn't matter how stupid it is, and you can pretty much run that plot just kind of overlaid on top of Torg because it allows for that. So I guess that's just the '80s kid in me who liked stuff like that. Growing up on a steady diet of Arnold Schwarzenegger and Stallone films.
Yep.
So. But that was the game I want to talk about. And I took 40 minutes to do that. Wow. I didn't realize I had that much to say about it. We lost one of our panelists, so Grim, do you have something you want to talk about?
Yeah, I'd best go next because I am going to have to go on time today. So I'm going to cheat because I don't have a favourite system. I'm very much a system matters kind of guy from a design point of view as well as a player's point of view. So to me, the best system is whatever system works the best for the kind of experience that you're trying to have at the table. So it will vary from game to game. And I mean, Torg is very background heavy, but I don't regard background as being the same thing as system necessarily. And we were here to talk about systems, so so ideally the two work together synergistically so the system supports the theme, the genre, the feel of the game in that direction, and the background supports the system in the other direction. I mean, you can play anything with any system, but it's probably not going to work that well if they're horribly mismatched. So I appreciate new systems. I appreciate individual systems. I was never a fan of the huge D20 glut that went on after 3rd edition. I'm not a fan of everyone shoehorning everything into 5th edition D&D at the moment. I think games suffer for it and kind of get lost in the mass of bad product that's out there. It's hard to be seen even if you have good product. There's a few games I think that very successfully simulate the background, the genre that they're aimed at. Head and shoulders above most of them is Feng Shui, or Feng Shui if you prefer, which is a kind of cinematic Hong Kong action sort of game, all about over the top kung fu and gun fu and the John Woo and the old Wushu films and so on. It's very much inspired it. Touches of Big Trouble in Little China as well. The mechanics themselves are incredibly simple, but they work incredibly well because the system itself encourages you to do over-the-top things. Right, so you were saying, like in Torg, you have the possibilities and the various other ways that you can influence the game through cards and so on to do over-the-top action movie stuff. Right, but that's still a resource, yeah? You can run out, at which point your superheroics are kind of curtailed, save as they fit the world that you're in.
True.
In a normal game, when you try something ridiculous, right, like your example of throwing the throwing knife into the barrel of someone's gun, that's going to be incredibly difficult. So you're going to have to make a really good roll, or you're going to take penalties on your roll. It's going to be a difficult thing to do. In Feng Shui, by describing what you're doing in a cool way, you don't take penalties, you get bonuses. So even if your character is not particularly good at whatever it is that you're trying to do, if you can describe it in a cool way, if you can describe it in a way that everyone around the table, loves and enjoys, then you're going to get bonuses, and instead of penalties. And that stunt mechanic has also been used here and there in other things, in several versions of Exalted and so on. And that's always my go-to example for genre emulation is Feng Shui, because despite being a really, really simple system that needn't necessarily even be there, you might think it just works really well to encourage people to do cool stuff because you get the bonuses to doing it. It was also one of the first games to sort of divide enemies into cannon fodder, sort of henchmen and bosses, which is something we've seen in a lot of other games. Even 4th edition D&D had that idea, which was one of the few good ideas that 4th edition had.
I have to agree with that, yeah.
Another great example of genre emulation, I think, or of system fitting the setting, would be Call of Cthulhu, which uses the basic role-playing system. So the mythos, for all that it's weird and unfathomable and all the rest of it, it's always very grounded in the real. The investigators are fragile and human. I think it was the first game to really model madness and insanity and losing your marbles in an effective way. But characters are certainly very, very fragile. It's easy to lose them in Call of Cthulhu. And a percentile system, for some reason, always feels more kind of realistic and grounded. A percentage chance is something that most people can grasp quite intuitively. I think that's an important aspect of Call of Cthulhu's success. The Storyteller System, as was the older Storyteller System, I think that was perfect for what it was trying to do, in that dice pools are also very intuitive. Counting successes was simple because it's just simple addition. It didn't really have a lot of the complexities that can drag down a lot of other systems. So I think that's another case of the right system at the right time. But yeah, my main point really is just that, I don't have a favorite system. I never grew up playing just one system. I've always played lots of different games. And to me, the best system is whatever works for the game that you're trying to play.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a fair point. Oh,
Rifts is a terrible system, though. Palladium is just a terrible system.
It is, but it's like stupid fun.
What about Fatal?
I haven't played it, so But you know what? It's like I tell people. It's like there are people out there who play it. So clearly, it doesn't really matter what you publish as far as a role playing game goes. Somebody out there will like it. Somebody out there will want to play it, no matter how, whatever you want to call it. And I should mention too. There is one other thing to Torg that I should have said, but there is no levels. It's not a level-based system. So, but there is a sense of progression because characters do grow a little bit in their skills and stuff. And of course, you can acquire and you could hoard more possibilities if you really wanted to, but that's not in the spirit of the game. And you can hoard cards, but again, that's not in the spirit of the game. But for the most part, it's like, there's no levels, and that is something I actually like because I don't like levels as a sense of progression. I understand that, it's nice to have gates to special abilities and things like that, but I don't like a leveling system so much. I think it should be more dynamic.
It's a dopamine hit when people level as well.
Yeah.
So I understand why people like it, but it's not one of my favorites.
Yep. And Silverlock, Rifts had a Savage Worlds edition. Well, you know what? It's kind of funny as one of our panelists wants to talk Savage Worlds. So
and I actually bought Rift Savage Worlds recently, so
there you go. So I'll let you take it, Victor, if you're done, Grim.
I was just going to kind of briefly mention generic systems. The trouble with them is they don't do anything particularly well. GURPS had fantastic source books, but the mechanics not so great. We touched on the third edition Glut, that hasn't been particularly good. Modiphius is a bit of a weird case. They're using 2D20 for everything, but they're really adapting the system to each different game setting and genre. So it's an interesting sort of halfway house. But that's the only other thing I was going to mention.
I guess the only thing I that isn't in Torg that I would love to have seen as a reality that never materialized would be like an Old West setting. But I guess you could run Aurora kind of as a horror Old West sort of setting since their technology is low, but not like, flintlock low. Okay, Vic, you want to take it away?
Sure, I'll give it a shot. Kind of being put on the spot, but it's fine.
Okay.
I prefer usually making up my own settings. Like, there's some really good settings out there, but at the end of the day, I like coming up with my own stuff. So I like setting neutral systems like Savage Worlds. They basically, you can go in and just throw whatever setting you want on top, and the rules will 99% of the time work. Savage Worlds, for one, you can you can do like pulp, like 1920s, 1930s type stuff, which is actually what the one shots I usually run for it. You can do fantasy, you can do sci-fi. Like Silverlock said, they actually released Rift Sword recently. Let me actually see if I can share my Roll20 screen because that's why I bought it.
There we go.
That is the map for one of the one shots that I ran last time. Was Nazis on a blimp.
Oh no.
Let's see if it will actually let me pull up the little windows. Let's see. I'll go to rules. Just pick something random. Yeah, that seems to work.
Okay.
Cool. So it's very generic, but at the same time, there's like a lot of depth to it. If you actually start digging in, there's like rules for hunger, like over here. There's rules for thirst. There's like rules for like being in like radiation and other like hazardous environments. There's like all sorts of stuff that you can like throw in if you want to. See the character system itself is classless. So you just pick your stats, you pick your skills, you pick basically advantages and disadvantages, and then the more disadvantages you have, the more advantages you can get. See the stats. Let me just find them.
I have copies of Savage Worlds and Savage World Supers and Sci-Fi and all that, but
Yeah.
we've never had a chance to play it. My group was very resistant to trying out new systems for the longest time. I'm finally managing to try new stuff with them, so
Yeah.
I would hope to play Savage Worlds with them at some point, but
Oh yeah, it's great, especially for like one shots. Like I said, that's what I wanted for. It's just like kind of like diesel punky Call of Cthulhu type stuff, basically. I did with my players, and they all loved it. It's actually a pretty lethal system because it uses exploding dice.
oh wow, okay, yeah.
So I made a test character and I had him go up against like a normal ass skeleton, and the skeleton like rolled like 14 exploding dice on me or something. So
Wow.
yeah, but there's bennies which for roll 20 you can pull out these little things, and each player gets them. The GM also gets a certain amount, and you can use them to like basically like rerolls. Like if you fail a reroll, you can spend the benny to do rerolls, but you can also soak damage. So, say something is about to like take you down, you're like, yeah, I'm spending a Benny to like soak that damage so it doesn't like go through or it goes through less. But the catch is that the GM can also do that. So if you're like attacking an NPC and he doesn't want it to go down and he has bennies, he can be like, yeah, no, sorry. See the
I like that though, because it does it. Sometimes the dice come down to where it's like, yeah, your main bad guy gets taken out in one round. That's kind of like,
yeah,
oh,
definitely. I'm trying to find where it describes the like the skills and the stats and stuff. Well, the Roll 20 rules are like all over the place. They're not like at all organized.
yeah, Silverlock. That's kind of one of the reasons I also liked Torg is it had the exploding dice as well. I think it was like one of the first games to have an exploding dice. I'm not sure, but yeah, you don't have to learn a new game.
Oh yeah, so you roll like usual. You have to hit a target number, but the nice thing is that each skill and each stat has their own dice. The higher your skill or stat is, the higher your dice is. So I think it starts at a D4, but you can have like a D12 in like a skill or a stat. So that basically gives you a higher chance to roll that target number. Which I think that's a bit more interesting than just having like, oh, I have 18 strength. No, I have like D10 strength.
Yeah, I will say that Savage Worlds has had quite some longevity. It's been out for a while.
Oh yeah,
and people do still like it. So
yeah, this is the latest version. This is the Adventure edition, which kind of streamlined a lot of stuff.
a game system I used to work on, or I worked on at one time, was Darwin's World, and that has a Savage World edition now.
Yeah.
Or has had one, so.
Yeah, see if you go to the settings here, there's got all the Rift stuff that I bought recently. So, we've got the Federation of Magic, like all the Rift stuff. So I've been meaning to learn it.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. Well, Torg came first before Savage Worlds, but I see where the two of them are really kind of work together a little bit now, because a lot of the mechanics seem similar with Torg Eternity. The Edge of Time.
Savage Worlds was derived from the Deadlands system, of course.
Yeah.
See, that's I used to have that, but I never actually got to play it.
We played the post-apocalyptic version. The thing is, I really liked the system for Deadlands. I haven't got on with Savage Worlds in the same way, and I don't know why. It puzzles me.
Yeah, you might not like Torg then, for the same reasons then. Dazwolf, and you like the original Traveler system? Yeah, I like the original Traveler system's character creation mechanic. Honestly, that's the best thing about it I can say. As far as the actual rules go for playing the game, we never really got to get heavy duty into the mechanics and crunchiness, so I can't speak to those. Basic Expert would probably have been good for that.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I didn't get to play Aftermath, but I did get to play Marvel Superheroes Faster Rip. We played a lot of that.
I actually did a campaign of that, or was playing a campaign of that a couple months ago. It was really fun.
Champions and Hero was good. We did find out though that you can break the game pretty hardcore.
Yeah.
So another thing you can do is you can set like custom rules for the game that you can combine. So you can have like gritty damage, so damage works differently. You can have heroes never die, so basically, instead of like dying, you get to like do like one last thing, basically. So you can kind of like tailor your setting to be like more cinematic or more like realistic and gritty.
Okay.
See, you can give characters like powers, which you can give them superpowers, so you can actually run like a full-on like superhero game. You can give them magic powers, you can give them psionics, you can give them more like, so you've got like the more like D&D type magic powers, but you could also do like witchcraft. One thing that I like, let's see, they have a specific name for it, for that rule. See if I can find it.
So they pretty much they have a system in place for everything. Which is good. I like settings like this where you don't have to reinvent the wheel every time you want to play a new setting.
Yeah. I can't find what it's called right now, but there's basically a system where you can, if you have like a magic power, say one that where it just like you throw something and it does damage, you can like skin it to where it has like its own flavor that fits your character. So even if you have two characters that both technically have the same power, for one it might just be like I throw a fireball. For the other, it's like I open my mouth and bees come out and sting you. But mechanically they do the same thing, but they have like entirely different flavors. So it kind of sets characters more apart.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Something kind of what a lot of this stuff also reminds me of. One thing seems kind of clear. A lot of people, once they have a rule set in mind that they like, that's kind of like what they like to stick to. For example, when the 3.x craze was going out, most of my friends were, really hooked on Dungeons and Dragons 3.0 and 3.5.
Yeah.
And I introduced Pathfinder to them later on, and of course they loved that even more. But honestly, at that time, the system I really, really liked the best was D20 Modern. Because D20 Modern let you do everything, including fantasy.
Yeah.
And they already had source books and stuff that they were bringing out by the company, so they were encouraging you to do these things already by keeping the hero classes kind of generic, tough hero, strong hero, fast hero.
Yeah,
that was the main thing I liked about that. Yeah.
Yeah, Shadow of the Demon Lord killing characters during Generation 2. Yeah. I've seen that.
You've got the Benny rule to soak damage, basically.
Cool.
Do you get more bennies by playing up your floors? That was one of the main mechanics in Deadlands that I loved.
I believe so, and there's also edges, which are basically the advantages that actually can give you more bennies to start with. So yeah, you've got the edges, which is like like I said, the advantages plus the stuff that can give you powers. So you can have like danger sense.
Oh yeah, Das Wolfen, that's true. And okay, I'm running my first game of it tonight actually. But I should mention, if you enjoy D20 Modern, I picked up from Troll Lord Games Amazing Adventures, which their base background is like, pulp. But because of the rules add-ons for that game, including the way that it seamlessly dovetails into Castles and Crusades, you can easily use Amazing Adventures to do the same kind of thing as D20 Modern.
Yeah.
So you can run any kind of genre or background or whatever you want to do, any kind of game. It doesn't lend itself very well to like super duper 4-color heroes, but your heroes can get very impressively strong and powerful from a street level perspective. I guess it's less Kal-El and more Daredevil or Punisher or maybe even Luke Cage level.
You,
what I
you
mean?
mentioned it to me last week, I believe, and I picked it up on Twitter.
And what do you think of it so far?
Yeah, it looks great. The first thing I did was look at the gun rules because that's kind of my thing.
Oh God! Did you see the
auto
compendium?
fire. Yeah. I think the auto fire rule is a little bit complex for my taste, but the rest looks really good.
Yeah, I have to admit the compendium. Let me see if I can pull it up. We're so professional here.
Also, if you look grim, this is like one of the edges that gives you like extra bennies.
Yeah. Now, what I liked was the character when we were playing Deadlands. Loads of the characters had flaws, and being heroic was one of the flaws. Like you can't ignore it when people are in trouble or whatever, and so he would get extra bennies or chits, as the case was for that.
Yeah.
Anytime that came up, but it meant as a games master, I didn't have to keep track of everyone's advantages and disadvantages. They would bring it up for me because they wanted more chits.
Yep.
So.
Here's Heroic, which might do the same thing. I'm not sure.
Yeah, that's pretty much the same.
But yeah, it's a very flexible system. It kind of lets you, like I said, it lets you do everything. And if there's something not in the core book, there's like so many other like third-party stuff that you can buy that adds stuff. There's one that adds like madness from like Call of Cthulhu type play. There's like whole cyberpunk books.
Oh yeah. I'm pulling up this one.
Yep.
This is from Amazing Adventures. This is from their companion book. Their companion book brought out an expanded firearms list, which it's pure gun porn.
Yeah. Yeah, old school gun porn too.
Yeah, because they do give descriptions on all the guns, but this is just their main table. It tells you, what the weapon is, what caliber it comes in, the range, the damage, how much recoil it does, what its accuracy is based on the gun type, what the rate of fire, what the receiver is, the capacity, and what year and country. But the year especially was important to me because if I wanted to run an Old West Amazing Adventures, all I got to do is look at stuff that was made before, like say 1900.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Also, the weapon damages are robust.
Oh yeah, they're definitely they're up there. They're higher than the stuff I did for mine.
Yeah, and I like that because it really gives you that sense of slap that a gun can do if it hits you. I mean,
I seem to remember a really old AD&D rule for an arquebus was you rolled I think it was a D12 and then you multiplied it by another D12.
Jeez.
Ooh.
But because you could get really low damage, 1 times 1, or horrendous damage, 12 times 12. But because it took so long to reload, you were only ever going to use it like once per combat. So
Yeah.
anyway, I have to toddle. I'm sorry, Shirt. I would stay longer if I could, but unfortunately, I have to go and do stuff. But yeah.
All right, buddy. Well, we're
latest
gonna
Grim.
close up pretty soon anyway. But Grim, thanks for being here.
Anytime. I'll see you next week.
All right, definitely next week.
Next week. Take care.
All
Bye.
right. They have really cool shotgun rules too, which I don't know if you've seen those yet.
No, I might have looked at them, but I probably forgot.
Let's see if I can find the shotgun. I think the shotgun rules are in the main
one?
book.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let me
I
pull
noticed
those
they
up.
have like 7 different types, like different ways of doing auto fire.
Yeah. Let me find it. Got to be in combat. Yeah, we have. Oh, and it has a ton of spells, by the way. So many spells.
Yeah, once my main 5th edition game is done, I'm gonna do a Castle and Crusades one, just a normal fantasy one.
Mhm.
I promised people I would set it in my dog fantasy like Netherlands setting, so that should be fun.
Oh, I bet. Here we go. Bloop. This is Amazing Adventures from Troll Lord Games. But yeah, this is their shotgun rules, which is, it says, it's their default assumption is solid slugs.
It's kind of weird, but
Yeah, I know most people when they pick up a shotgun, at least
Buckshot.
as far as I know,
Yeah.
they're buckshot guys. But it says if you use like a double barrel and you use both and you empty both rounds into somebody, it's double damage, but it requires a full round to reload. But then if you do buckshot, it does double damage at point blank range, normal damage at first increment, half damage beyond the first increment to for the pellet spread.
Yeah.
And the weapon accuracy goes up by +2. So, and this is emptying both barrels of a double barrel shotgun loaded with shot is treated as a 50-shot spraying burst. Which a 50-shot spraying burst is treated as the same as a 10-shot burst, but it affects a 10-foot wide path. So anytime you're firing a burst in Amazing Adventures, all the characters who are in range of you bursting get to make a dexterity check to get half damaged, and they add any cover bonuses they can have. But and I could see why they did this, because it simulates your guy diving for cover and stuff like that, and it works in the player's favor more so than the bad guys, because if the players are getting hosed with a machine gun, they definitely don't want to just die, which is
definitely.
Which is what happens to real people who get caught in a hail of bullets from a machine gun.
I just feel it's a little bit crunchy how they wrote it. Like I think they could have simplified it a little.
Yeah, it is crunchy. But again, that's like I said, that's kind of like that appeals to the gun porn people who enjoy that kind of stuff. But it's not as like, say, gun porn as like Twilight 2000.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, I was watching Legion of Myth review that recently, and that was really crunchy.
It's super crunchy. We used to play Twilight 2000, and man, it would seriously devolve into everybody. Well, what's the caliber of my gun? How much weight am I holding? Am I using the correct silencer, or am I using a suppressor, or do I want to take that off, or do I want to put a bigger scope on, and all this other stuff.
What's the grain of my bullet, and what powder type is in the shell?
Yeah, I mean, it was like insane.
Yeah.
Is there a perk or advantage that can increase the reload time of the double barrel? Actually, that's a good point, Das Wolfen. Amazing Adventures does have a perk system that you can use. That you can trade some of your character's class abilities out, and I believe one of them does let you reload faster. So yeah, you could with that perk, you could sit there and you could reload. You could fire both barrels of your double barrel shotgun and then reload it every round, I believe. We'll have to test it tonight maybe and see how it works. But I believe that is a possibility. And if it doesn't exist as a perk already written into the books, as a GM, you can definitely put it in there.
Yeah.
Because they do encourage you to do your own stuff. Oh, is this yours?
Oh, sorry. I was looking at my notes. I wasn't even aware. I was still sharing my screen. But yeah, this is my recent OSR project that I finished this weekend.
Oh man, well yeah, go ahead, talk about that.
Yeah, it's called Simple Modernity, which is kind of a pun on basic fantasy. It's just some rules to basically add modern firearms and equipment and vehicles to an OSR game of your choice. So you could use it with basic fantasy, old school essentials, probably even just first edition D&D, probably white box, all that stuff.
That's neat, and that is something I like for OSR because I do like OSR stuff.
Yep, I've got classes. I've got soldier over here, kind of like the equivalent to fighter.
Mm-hmm. Door kicker.
Yeah, as you see here, level progression, a soldier progresses like a fighter and an OSR of your choice, because I didn't link it to any particular OSR. I'll probably do that for a future project, like probably use just old school essentials, because it's easier. But for this one, I just kind of kept it generic.
Actually, I like that, because not every OSR scales levels the same way.
Yeah, definitely.
So, like, let's say, like, if I was running Axe, you could overlay this onto Axe and use their progression instead of, say, OSE or or whatever you wanted. But no, I like that. I had to pick up a copy of this. This is on drive-through?
Yeah, and on itch.
Okay.
Yeah, this is cool, because we talked about like John Woo and like those types of stuff earlier. This is basically the class that's based on that, like Chow Yun Fat in the Better Tomorrow, basically.
Nice. Way of the gun.
Yep.
Wolf, and you'll check it out. You're forced into running 5e because you play with friends remotely and they don't want to drive 80 miles. Yeah.
So you got a sniper, got a survivalist. So they can do stuff like make their own ammo. They can make rations last longer.
Mm-hmm.
Which, that can be pretty useful in certain campaigns. Contract killer, so basically John Wick.
Yeah, Edge of Time. Yeah, online play. Yeah, the ease of the system definitely comes into play for that, because you don't want your people having to learn and read new rule books all the time.
Yeah.
And I see you have some gun porn here, but it's not so much gun porn. It's just kind of generic.
Yeah, I kept them generic because this is supposed to be just, for any generic setting. Because later on, I have like little plot suggestions, and they kind of like go from like World War One to like 2000s. So obviously, you wouldn't have the same models of gun there.
No. But the nice thing is, I guess if you really wanted to, you could pull out like Amazing Adventures gun porn section of books.
Oh, yeah.
And just overlay that on top of this. So.
Yep, definitely. And this list isn't at all comprehensive. Like, I just basically put in the basics.
I like it. I'm gonna have to pick up a copy of this just to check it out and see how I can dovetail it into my stuff.
Yeah, if you look at the damage profiles, like they're definitely less than Amazing Adventures. Like a 22 pistol only does like D4, while in Amazing Adventures I think it like a D8 or something.
Yeah, they will slap you.
Yeah, but I do have optional rules for see this one. What was it? Safe versus death. So when you get hit, you have to make a safe versus death, and if you fail, you basically start taking bleeding damage, so you can bleed out.
Oh, that's good. I like that.
Yep, and then there's also an optional rule for exploding dice, and you can actually combine the two to make it even more lethal.
That's cool. See, that's a rule that that's constantly ignored by a lot of my friends. It's like when we play D20, 3.0, 3.x, 3. Whatever. My friends staunchly refused any form of massive damage saves for stuff. But when I ran all my D20 modern stuff, I always made sure to use their massive damage rule. And their massive damage rule is real simple. It's like anytime you take damage in excess of your constitution, not your modifier, but your actual constitution. Like if you have an 18 con, anytime you take damage in excess of 18, you have to make a fortitude save. And if you fail that fortitude save, you immediately go to 0 hit points and become unconscious.
Oh yeah, that's fun.
Yeah. And I like that because that is a kind of a quick and dirty but effective simulation for the shock factor.
Yeah,
getting
definitely
hit with a bullet or anything really. Because it's easier to get that kind of damage out of like say like a two-handed sword with a guy with a high strength too.
Yeah.
You definitely go into shock if you got hit with one of those. If you survive it.
Yeah, definitely. So I've got some rules for vehicles here, modern vehicles. So you can actually have like a main battle tank. I mean, if you can afford it, because it's $6 million. But yeah,
yeah, I'd rather just go steal one.
yeah.
We did that in a game. We did steal a main battle tank in one
Yep.
game.
Short list of equipment. Like I said, it's not at all comprehensive. This was kind of like my test one to get familiar with the OSR and to see if there's like any like interest in like a modern type thing for it. And then eventually I want to like do a vastly expanded version with proper art and like do the Kickstarter and all that stuff once my 5th edition version is done.
Nice. I'm looking forward to it, man.
Yeah.
Well, all right. We're over time, so I'm gonna go ahead and stop for today's session. I'm sorry that Kringe had to leave early. He was going to talk to us about Shadow of the Demon Lord. I guess maybe if I can bring him on again next week, I will get him to do that.
Yeah.
Because that is a system that I really like, and I've bought all the books for, but I still haven't had a chance to play it. I plan to, but I plan to play a lot of systems. So
yeah, there's somebody on Twitter that constantly like talks about it. I can't remember who it is, but constantly comes up.
Well, on my Week in Geek panel, Lord Thoth is a Shadow of the Demon Lord player as well, and I have heard nothing but people. Usually whenever you talk about a game, people will bring up the positives and the negatives, like, oh, I don't like this about that. And I have never heard anybody say anything bad about Shadow of the Demon Lord yet.
Yeah, everyone who's played it seems to like really enjoy it.
Yeah, so I don't know, but maybe it's a really good game, and it's just kind of like been a sleeper hit that we didn't know about.
Yeah.
Being hit with a 57 Edsel can throw a character into shock. Yeah, no kidding. Yeah, getting hit with a Honda Civic could put somebody into shock. 57 Edsel's like made out of all steel.
Yeah, definitely.
But all right, guys. Thank you very much for joining us today on Dungeons and Discussions. I hope you've enjoyed it. We did talk your ear off a little bit there, but that's okay. I think it's fun to talk about different systems.
That's what streams are for, aren't they? So
yeah, and like we've shown you, there's more than D&D 5th edition out there. So definitely give some of these other systems a chance. Give them a look. I think what it basically boils down to is it's kind of like, it seems to be that most people kind of, once they find a rule set or mechanics that they really like, they tend to want to stick with it. And as if you have the advantage of being able to incorporate as many different I don't want to say styles of play, but genres of play as possible into the same system, I think that gives your system more longevity, and that definitely adds to more people's enjoyment, because people don't want to have to learn the rules over and over and over again, I don't think. Although as a GM, I think I've pretty much got about like at least 6 or 7 rule sets buried into my skull.
Do they sometimes get mixed up, or
Definitely there's definitely crosstalk, and there's always something I like from one system over the other that I wish was incorporated into the new system. So I think it's kind of like an always evolving process for us, because we see things that we like, or somebody comes up with a mechanic that we enjoy, and we just want to find a way to incorporate it.
Yeah.
I don't know. But anyway, yeah, thank you, Das Wolf, and I'm glad you enjoyed it, and thank you for hanging out with us today.
Yeah, thanks. And thanks for inviting me onto the stream.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. And, thank you for plugging your stuff. Hey, if you want to buy Victor's game, hit up to Drive-Thru-RPG and get it. Because
it was an accidental plug, but, I'll take it.
Hey. We're all about supporting indie creators here, man. Mm-hmm. Even the ones that hate us, apparently.
Yeah.
Inadvertently.
Yeah.
All right. Take care, everybody.
Attention,